Hey guys, welcome to this video. Um, yeah, I'm still coughing. You would think that, what the heck? I was just fine. I was just fine until I started talking. All right. Hey, so there's a video out that is it's linked in the description here, and it's about an issue that I think probably a lot of people have questions about. And what's interesting is that I think you're going to get different answers um, from different people based on whether you fall into, the authoritarian law enforcement crowd or you fall into the letter of the law freedom crowd. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining me. To everybody. So I saw this video. Geez. I would not have started this if I was having coughing problems. I don't know if it's stress that induces the coughing or just talking. I'm not under stress, I don't think, but maybe it's because I'm doing this video. Let me take one more puff. So I found this video, and it was the person it's the Primal Defense Company. That's what they go by. I'll tell you what, I'm going to start playing this, and then I will come back. Hopefully I can skip through this. But there's three significant sections. The video begins talking about obviously consensual encounters, okay? And I have no issues with anything he said about consensual encounters, what you can and can't do. The person in the video is supposedly like a law enforcement trainer. That's kind of what bothers me. Is that this guy's a law enforcement trainer, but yet he's saying some of these things, and they kind of bother me. Rose, no, it's not allergies. I had COVID, and I'm overcoming COVID, and my lungs are still sort of messed up, and I'm dealing with that. So, the good news is my O2 is constantly above 93. So obviously my lungs are getting better. I'm able to talk a little bit more. So let me get into this video. Like I said, he starts out with consensual encounters, and he's got a lot of good information about consensual encounters. And then he goes into reasonable suspicion or detention, and then probable cause or arrest. And that's where I start to have some issues. And I want to clarify what the reality is and hopefully show you what the reality is by going through the law itself. So let me bring this up here.
Be disarmed by Texas law enforcement under the constitutional carry law. Let's hear it. And the short answer to that is yes. Yes, you can. But it is not as simple as that. And in my opinion, in my professional opinion, both as an instructor and as a law enforcement instructor here in the state.
Can y'all hear me?
I am going to offer this.
So hopefully y'all can hear me while I've got this video out there. Can you see the video?
Commentary.
And can you hear me while the video is playing?
Out there right now,
before I go any further here,
how to do certain things. But I'm going to discuss things how I understand.
For some reason, I can't
be acted upon.
Fast forward, and I don't really want to play the whole video, but I guess I will. And then I'm going to pause this and
from county to county, there are
kind of go over where I disagree or where I agree, and maybe add some more content to it. So let's go ahead and we'll just watch it, and then I will. Let me see if I can kind of do a side by side here.
Towards certain issues.
I'm trying to see if I can do
a. No way stating
and it's not letting me.
DAs or department heads deviate.
Okay. Well, anyway, we'll just start the video.
State law, but you can form your own opinion depending on what area in the state that you live in. And for those of you who have already angrily commented, just bear with me and hear me out. So before we get into can a law enforcement officer disarm you? Before they can even disarm you, there first needs to be a contact. Can law enforcement officers approach you simply because you're carrying a firearm in public? And the answer to that is absolutely yes. Yes, they can. They can approach you and they can make contact with you simply because you're carrying a handgun or a firearm.
And I like what he's about to say about consensual
They can
encounters
also
here.
simply approach you because you're wearing a red shirt. They can also approach you because you're wearing white shoes, because you're wearing a Dallas Cowboy jersey. It really doesn't matter. It's called the common law right to inquire. And it is the same right that you have as an everyday citizen. You can go ahead and approach anybody on the street as long as it is within reason and ask them what time it is. You can ask them, hey, what kind of cell phone is that? Or where'd you get that t-shirt? And it's perfectly legal. You can do that. It's not obscene. It's not harassing. It's not threatening. So just
Yeah, these are just consensual encounters.
Law enforcement officers can do the same thing too. If they see you out in public,
And you can just tell them to
they want
pound sand, I don't want to
speak
talk to you.
They can. They can introduce themselves. They can ask you any question that they want. And it's completely up to you if you're willing to answer. If it is a consensual encounter. If it is an investigatory stop because there
Now, the
is
way
some
to determine
suspicion
whether or not, oh, is there an
associated
echo?
with that
Shoot.
encounter, well, that
The
is
way
different.
to
But when it is
determine
just
whether or not
consensual
it's a
encounter,
consensual
there
encounter
is
is to
suspicion of any wrongdoing
ask.
whatsoever.
So
They
when
cannot
a
be
when a
intrusive
police
in nature.
officer,
They
let me
cannot force anything from
when a
you
police officer
because they
stops
have
you,
your
the
Fourth
very first
Amendment
thing you need to
right.
ask
You can
is
simply decline
this a consensual encounter?
with law
Um,
enforcement. If you wish
am
to
I?
answer
Do you
their
suspect me of
questions, well,
committing a
that
crime?
is
Yes or no? If he
completely up
says
to
no, I
you.
say okay. Well, with
Just
all due
as you are
respect,
free to not answer
I prefer
anything
not to
if
talk to
you
you,
are not
and
being
I'm going to go about my
detained.
way. That's how you determine whether or
You can
not a
also
stop
answer
is
questions.
consensual
The questions
or
can
whether they're
be just
investigating
as
something. And let me
innocent
tell you,
as, hey, what time is
if
it? Or it can
they
be
say,
something
well, we
like,
got a
do you have
phone
a
call.
bomb under your shirt?
Okay, well,
If you wish
what
to answer,
criminal
that's
activity did the
completely up
phone
to you.
call
Anything
articulate to you
more
that you're
intrusive than
investigating?
a consensual
That's a very
encounter
important
needs
question
something
because
else
it
to
sets the
back it up.
precedent. You
They're
want
going
to
to
make,
need
you don't want to answer any
reasonable
questions
suspicion.
until
Reasonable
you can
suspicion is
determine
something like
whether or not
when you are
the
observed
the
leaving the scene
contact
of
with
a
the law
crime,
enforcement
or a crime
officer
had just
is
occurred. If you're
consensual.
matching the
And don't answer
description
any
of a
questions.
suspect who
Don't do
just
anything
committed a
until the
crime.
officer
If
straight
you're
up tells
suspected of
you
committing a crime, if
that
you're suspected
you're
or
not under
believed to be a
suspicion for any
witness to
crime,
a crime,
you are not being
those
detained. Okay.
are
At
all
that point, it's up to you whether you want to
things
talk to the
that would
officer,
lead an
but
officer
I'll
to
tell
have
you, you
reasonable
never want to talk to the
suspicion
officer.
to detain
All
you,
right. You never
or
you
to
never
stop
want to
you
talk
and
to a
to
police
inquire
officer,
a little further
no
as
matter
to
what, unless
what
you know
you're
the guy.
doing there
Okay, unless you know the
and
guy.
so forth.
Or you
In
want to
that
talk about something
sort of
completely unrelated
encounter, law
to why they're
enforcement
there.
can
Um,
absolutely
if you want to
disarm
talk
you. They
about
can
guns,
also
just in
disarm you
general,
in a
then by all means
consensual
talk about
encounter
guns.
if they just walk up to you, they have no
But anyway,
reason
so
to
just to
believe
let you
that
know,
you're violating the law in any way, and they ask you, hey, how you doing, sir? I see you have a 9mm pistol there. Can I see it real quick? And if you hand it over to them, well, you hand it over to them. But you don't have to. Although where there is reasonable suspicion or probable cause, you will have no choice. You will have no choice but to allow
so the
them
question
to
is,
disarm
wouldn't it
you
be safe to
so
assume
that way
any
they can
encounter with a
continue
police
their
officer
investigation.
is a
In
custodial
a
arrest? No,
consensual
not at all.
encounter, they have no
The only way you
articulable
can
information
assume
that would
that
lead
there
to
is a
reasonable
custodial
suspicion,
arrest
much
is
less
if the
probable
police
cause,
officer
which is what
pulls
is
up, he's
needed to
got his
make an
lights
arrest.
on,
So can a law
and he
enforcement officer approach you
immediately
in public
tells
simply
you
because you're carrying a handgun?
that at this time
Yes, they
you're
can.
being detained,
Can they
or
disarm you?
what
Well, if you
what the
allow them
issue
to,
is.
they can.
So
But what if they get
never
pushy? What if
assume
they
that an
go
encounter
beyond
is a custodial
their
arrest. Always
authority
ask,
and they try to go
and that's the
past
first thing that should come out of your mouth.
a consensual encounter? Well,
Hi,
I'm
officer.
going to
Do you
let them
suspect
do
me of committing a
whatever it is
crime?
that
And am
they
I free
need
to
to
go?
do to satisfy
Am I
the
under arrest? Am I free to
investigatory
go?
stop.
Am I being
And if
detained?
I
Am I
feel
free
that
to
I
go?
was violated in any way, I'm
Other
going
than
to
that,
go
if they
ahead
start
and
asking
file
you
a
questions,
report with
I don't
their
I
agency
I don't
and
want to talk
look
about
at
my
an
day with
attorney.
you.
Me fighting
I
with
don't
them
want to
there in
discuss my day
public
with
is
you.
not going
Okay,
to
that's it.
cause one
And then
bit.
I'm gonna go about my
And
way.
any remedy
Okay.
that I would seek
So
afterwards is
never assume
probably
that an
going to be
encounter
diminished.
is a custodial
And on
arrest. As a
top
matter
of
of
that,
fact,
if
always
I do
assume that it's a
fight with them on
consensual
the side of the
encounter,
road
unless the
or
officer
there in
tells you. For
public
example,
that
when you get
day,
pulled over
I'm probably going to end up in
by a cop
jail
car, usually the
or
lights are on.
worse,
That's a
which
good
is something that
indicator.
I really do
But
not want to
usually a
do.
police officer will
So in
tell
my
you when he
opinion,
pulls you over, hello, my
if
name is Officer so-and-so. The reason for the
they
stop
wanted
today
to search
is
me or they wanted
you
to
didn't use your
disarm me,
blinker.
I'm going to go
You
ahead and
ran a
deal
red
with
light.
them.
You didn't
So
stop at
a
a stop
quick
sign
recap.
completely.
If it is a
Usually
consensual
they'll tell you those things
encounter,
right away.
can
If
they
they don't
disarm
tell
you?
you those things right
Well, if
away,
you allow them to.
good afternoon, sir. Even if they
If it is
walk
a
up to you
detention, can they
and you're
disarm
just
you?
walking down the road, good
Absolutely.
afternoon,
If
sir.
it
My
is
name
an
is Officer
arrest,
so-and-so.
can they disarm you?
The reason I'm stopping you
Absolutely.
today is we got a
Absolutely, they
call,
can. So tell me
and
what you
then,
think. I want to
there's a
hear
guy
from
with a
you
gun.
guys in the
Okay, well, that's
comment
not a crime.
section. If you agree with
So at that
whatever it
point,
is
you
that I
immediately
said,
ask,
or if you
okay,
absolutely don't
is that a
agree,
crime to have a
you
gun?
can
No, it's
go ahead
not.
and let
Okay,
us
so
know
am I
as
free to
well. And
go
if you have
or am I being
stories
detained?
about encounters with law
And
enforcement
then
that
if
went
you're free to
either in your
go, go.
favor or were not
That's it. Just go.
extremely
Just walk away.
comfortable, we'd like to hear from you as
That's
well.
how you handle that.
And we're trying to kick off a new segment where we are going to discuss certain topics with some of our viewers that absolutely disagree with whatever it is that we're saying. Because we're going to try to get to the bottom of whatever the differences are. That way it can benefit everybody. So if you have a difference in opinion from either this video or any of the other videos that you find on our channel, feel free to hit us up. We'd be more than happy to welcome you and have a live discussion. That way everybody can hear it, and we'll learn something. Somebody's going to learn something. Either we will or you will. But either way, guys, thank you very much for watching. Really appreciate it. Stay safe. God bless. And we'll catch you guys later. Take it easy.
Okay, somehow it skipped all the way out. Okay, well, you know what? The video here, let me just, I am screwing this up left, right, and sideways. How do I get that video off? There we go. Okay. All right. Look, the link's in the bottom, and I'll just go through at about the 340 mark. And I don't know why I can't just start the video at the 340 mark. Maybe I should have just cut out the segments I wanted to share. But he talks about reasonable suspicion and whether or not an officer can disarm you. And his conclusion is if the officer has reasonable suspicion, in other words, let's say there's a robbery on 3rd Street, you're walking down 4th Street, and the caller says that the robber was wearing a white shirt and blue jeans, and you're wearing a white shirt and blue jeans. Now robbery is a little bit different, but I mean, whatever the call is. If there's articulable suspicion of an actual criminal act, then that's what causes reasonable suspicion. But you may or may not be the person that's involved in that robbery. For example, you might have some type of imagery on your white shirt, whereas the person that made the phone call said no, it was a plain white T-shirt or a wife beater or something like that. But just because they have reasonable suspicion doesn't mean that they can just automatically disarm you. And unfortunately, that's what the Primal guys are saying, is that they can actually disarm you just because they've got reasonable suspicion. I want to read the actual law to you. Okay. As a matter of fact, let me try and share this. Share screen. Let's see. Let's share that. Okay. Y'all should be able to see this. And here's the section of, this is section 3 of the Code of Criminal Procedure. That's in HB 1927. This is the section that officers are using, and people that support them are using to talk about whether or not there is authority to disarm. Now, before everyone gets freaky about, oh my gosh, why did we allow this in the bill? Look, this language is already in the law. It was in the law August 31st. What they did was they just traveled it over into a new section and just moved it, okay? But it says a peace officer who's acting in lawful discharge of the officer's official duties may disarm a person at any time the officer reasonably believes it is necessary for protection of the person, officer, or other individual, okay? It cannot be, legally, it cannot be the default status of the officer just because you are carrying a gun and they're stopping you, that, hey, I'm going to disarm you for my safety and yours. No, okay, that's not, that is not the standard. The standard here is a reasonable belief that it's necessary for the protection of the person, officer, or other individual. In other words, the officer has to have some articulable facts, okay, some articulable facts that you are a danger to somebody. And just the fact that you have a gun, is not an articulable fact. And unfortunately, what a lot of cops will say is, well, you have a gun, therefore it's a threat to me, and I'm going to disarm you. Well, you can't. You're a law-abiding citizen. You've done nothing wrong. All that they have is a phone call And most of the time, the phone call isn't even about a criminal activity. It's just about a person with a gun. That's it. Now, here's what I will tell you. Let's say that the phone call is, hey, there's a guy with a gun walking down the road, and the police feel they have the need to investigate that, and they show up, and you immediately start getting angry, and you're causing a scene, kind of. You're just going crazy instead of just talking to the guy. I was doing so good. Well, if that's the case and you start acting like a fool, well, now you're giving the officer who has reasonable suspicion a reason to believe that you might not be a sane individual, and therefore, because of your angry outbursts or whatever, and I'm not saying whether I agree with this or not, I'm just telling you, you're giving him a reasonable belief now that you might be a threat, okay, because of your actions and the way that you're speaking to him. So whenever an officer does approach you and you've got a firearm, be on your best behavior. Don't surrender your rights, but be on your best behavior. If you start cursing him out, now again, this doesn't matter for a consensual encounter, because it doesn't matter if during a consensual encounter you are you're being respectful or not, because they have no reasonable suspicion of criminal activity, so they can't just disarm you without your permission. But if an officer tells you that they're investigating a potential crime and you are the suspect of that potential crime, well, your best bet is just to shut up. Don't answer any questions and just say, okay, well, I'm going to exercise my Fifth Amendment right to remain silent, and you may go about your investigation. I will not interfere, but I will not assist either. And that's it. And then you shut up. Okay, then you shut up. And that doesn't give him a reasonable suspicion. Now, I saw something in the comments that was actually correct. Where was it? Oh, here it is. Live Free says officers will do it for their safety, no matter what the law says. They ignore and don't know the laws currently. What's the difference? Well, this is why I'm doing this video. I hope that law enforcement is watching this, because, look, I'm telling you, the 2-year statute of limitations on a tort action, in other words, being unlawfully disarmed, is 2 years. Within a year, I'm going to be an attorney. And if I find out the police officers are going around disarming people for my safety, despite the fact that the law is very specific, that you have to have a reasonable belief, which is a legal term, okay, a legal term, and you don't have a reasonable belief, and you can't articulate why you believe that your safety is in jeopardy, or the person's safety is in jeopardy, or someone else's safety is in jeopardy, and your only argument before the court is, well, he had a gun. That's not going to fly. That's not a reasonable belief. I will be the guy to sue you, okay? And so if it happens anytime from now until whenever, with that statute of limitations, I'm going to be an attorney, and I don't have any problem taking those phone calls saying, hey, CJ, I was illegally disarmed. What are my options? This is why I'm becoming an attorney, because I'm fed up with this stuff. So why do it, officers? If you only have reasonable suspicion and the guy's not giving you any reason to believe that he's a threat to you, in other words, he's not being angry, he's not screaming and yelling, he's not spouting off stupid conspiracy theories and stuff like that. He's a very rational person, and he's just standing there. Okay, I'll let you do your investigation. There's no reason to disarm him unless you're a coward. Okay, only cowards would do that. You cannot conceal carry under HB 1927 without a license. Yes, you can. Yes, you can conceal carry or open carry under HB 1927 without a license. That's absolutely false, Bradley. Under HB 1927, you can conceal or open carry, but if you open carry, you have to have it in a holster. If you conceal carry, you don't have to have it in a holster, but if you open carry, you have to have it in a holster. And as long as you're not a prohibited person, you can conceal carry without a license. I want to make sure that's on there. Yes. That's what constitutional carry is. You can open or conceal carry without a license. That's the whole point of constitutional carry. All right, and so there's reasonable suspicion. Now, obviously, at 5:30, at 5 minutes and 30 seconds in the video that I shared, which I don't know why it wouldn't let me do anything. He talks about, okay, let's say that it is consensual, and yeah, I don't know, flat Earth theory. Yeah, that would probably be reasonable suspicion. You're probably a crazy person, and you should probably be disarmed if you think the Earth is flat. You're not sane enough to carry a firearm. I jest, but that's my belief. I don't think anybody should be disarmed, but anyway. So CJ, you should implement that the officer involved is removed from his or her post, and then sue the officer. Otherwise, you're just suing the taxpayer. Well, actually, you're suing the insurance company. Every city and officer is protected under an insurance policy. So really, the taxpayers don't pay anything other than whatever the whatever thing is there. So anyway, at 5 minutes and 30 seconds, he essentially says, "I'm just going to let them get away with it and then sue later." Let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, if an officer is trying to disarm you illegally and you don't want to, there are several options you can take, and these options may or may not cause you to get shot and killed. Okay, but these are your options. Your options are to, as the video says, I'm just going to let him do it, and then I'm going to file a complaint. I don't recommend that. Okay, I don't recommend that you just allow an officer to unlawfully and unconstitutionally disarm you. You should, at the very, very least, register your opposition. Okay, register your opposition at least vocally and say, "No, I do not consent to you disarming me. You have no reason to disarm me. You have no reasonable belief that I'm a danger to anybody. I'm not here to kill anybody. I'm not here to hurt anybody. My gun will stay in its holster. It's not going anywhere. I'll keep my hands away from the gun if it'll make you feel better. But no, I do not consent to you disarming me." Now, they might do it anyway, but at least at that time, you know that they are doing it against your will. Okay, and that's how you preserve your rights. If an officer comes up and says he's going to disarm you, you say, "Okay, yeah, whatever makes you feel better, officer." Guess what? You've just surrendered your rights. Okay. And if you go and sue, guess what the defense is going to say? The defense is going to say, "Look, Your Honor, I said I was going to disarm him, and he said, okay, go ahead." I mean, he didn't protest in any way whatsoever. And therefore your cause of action is gone because you voluntarily and willingly surrendered your rights. So at the very, very least, you need to vocalize, "I do not consent to you searching me. I do not consent to you touching me. I do not consent to you grabbing my firearm. And I do not consent to you disarming me." It has to be expressed, okay? It's got to be expressed. That's how you preserve your rights in a court. Now, that's the first step. The second step is you can do what I do, which is I don't let people disarm me. I pretty much fight them. You saw that in Almost Park. The guy was trying to grab me, trying to disarm me for no reason whatsoever. I know that I have a right to carry. I have a right to be there. Unfortunately, they escalated their violence, and I had no option or no opportunity to really defend myself because I had been tased. And once you're tasered, you lose everything. You can't move your arms. You can't do anything. There's another video I have in at the Capitol where I was carrying my AR pistol, and an officer came up to me and tried to stop me because I was carrying an AR pistol, and she thought it was a rifle. And she put her hand on me, and I flat out told her, "If you touch me again, I will defend myself. Do not touch me. There's no right to disarm. There's no right to touch me. I'm allowed to have this AR pistol here. I'm not breaking any laws. I'm not breaking any rules. Leave me alone." And thankfully, another officer came and grabbed her and moved her off, and I didn't have to do anything. But I made flat out, because she said, "Are you threatening me?" I said, "No, I'm telling you, I will defend myself if you touch me again." Now that's where each person has to determine if they want to go that far. Legally, you don't have to go that far. To preserve your rights, all you've got to do is protest and just tell them, "I do not consent." Okay, I do not consent, and if you continue any further, I will exercise my rights in court. Okay, that's the end of it. That's all you should say. I don't believe anybody should just let an officer steamroll over your rights. Always, always fight back. And I don't mean fist fights. I don't mean kinetic fights. I mean, you always protest and secure your rights verbally at the very, very least. Okay. Now, remember, if you go any further than just verbalizing, you run the risk of getting shot. And we all know that officers are allowed to murder citizens anytime they want to under qualified immunity for the most part. If you put up any fight, even if the officer is 100% wrong, 100% wrong, but you put up a fight with the officer and that officer shoots you, you're probably, the officer's probably going to have qualified immunity unless they're, I mean, it depends on the circumstances, obviously. So that was the other part that I wanted to talk about. If you're under arrest, the officer says you're under arrest. It doesn't matter. They can disarm you. Once you are under arrest, they are allowed to disarm you. No, silence. Well, silence can be considered consent. Yes. Silence can be considered consent. It can be considered a waiver of your rights. For example, if you remain silent and officers are questioning you and you never once ask for an attorney, but you remain silent, you've essentially waived your right to an attorney if you say anything later. So silence is or can be considered consent. So someone has a different belief than you, like flat Earth, and they're crazy, and they should not be able to carry a weapon, is what I understand you said. No, Texas Ted, look, flat Earth people are idiots. Okay, period. I think what you heard me say was I don't agree with anyone being disarmed. It doesn't mean that flat Earth people aren't idiots. They're morons. Period. Okay. Now, some would say that crazy people, which people who believe the Earth is flat are crazy. Some would believe that crazy people shouldn't have guns. Personally, I don't subscribe to that. I don't think, because who gets to define what crazy is? Granted, most people would obviously consider flat earthers crazy, but who gets to define that? That's why I don't agree with that. So anyway, please pay attention to what I say, and don't just pay attention to what you want to hear. It's okay. I think I pretty clearly said no one should be disarmed. Ugh, goodness, flat earthers are the weirdest people I've ever met, and I just don't understand how people can be so incredibly stupid and be adults. I have to wonder if they know how to eat peas without it falling off your fork or spoon. I have to wonder. Do they know which hole to feed themselves in? I don't know. Anyway. All right. So, yes, everyone has an inherent right to self-defense, even crazy flat earthers. Absolutely. All right. That's it for what I was able to keep this under 30 minutes. I just wanted to react to that video and give you guys some advice. I want to end by saying this. Zafarius. Yeah, it's a we live we live on the back of a of a giant tortoise and held up by two giant elephants, I think is what it is. I'm starting to think you don't like to live stream with me. Hey, Jim, I'll bring you on. Okay, here, Jim. Actually, how do I? Whoops. How do I invite you? Let me get Jim on here. Hang on a second. I'm gonna bring Jim on because I want to hear. I want to hear his. Come on. What is going on? 1 second. 1 second, guys. I'm sorry. I am having. Okay. Well, anyway. Okay. Next time. Got it. Anyway, there you go. Um, okay, yeah. All right, Texas. If you're good, you're good. Hopefully, you're not one of those crazy flat earthers. I really hope you're not. I like to think that I have a very intelligent um, viewership here of people that know how to use the gray matter that's contained up in this area here, um, and won't, you know, ignore facts, reality, things like flat Earth. All right. Um, you didn't eat one of the gummy bears again? No. Actually, because of COVID, I have no sense of taste or smell right now. Um, so I've actually wondered if I did the gummy bear challenge right now, would I even taste it? Would I know that it's hot? I don't know. Um, it's kind of interesting, not being able to taste or smell anything. All right, guys, I'm going to end this, and thank you for being there. And be safe, be free. I will see you next time. Take care.